So a few years ago, Sonny Hostin interviewed Van Jones, and during that interview, she asked him about the fact that many people perceive him to be a political chameleon and an opportunist. And recently, clips from that particular interview have gone viral because of recent statements that Van Jones made about Charlie Kirk. And there's a reason why that's the case. There's a reason why that video went viral, and it's because what she was asking him about is valid. I mean, this man is literally a political chameleon. This man is an opportunist. He blows with the wind, and he wants to be on both sides of the issue all the time in order to curry favor, win favor over from both sides. He wants to be loved by everybody. And the fact of the matter is, when you take that middle of the road stand on everything, you appear to be someone without principles, someone without character, someone without a spine. You appear to be somebody that is weak and feeble. And, you know, he claimed that he had all these disagreements with Charlie Kirk, on a lot of issues. In fact, he highlighted the fact that Charlie Kirk talked about a recent unaliving, and he basically suggested that this black man was motivated to unalive a white woman simply because she was white. And so they were debating back and forth about that online. And because of comments that Charlie Kirk made, Van Jones began to receive threats. But yet and still, Van Jones finds himself praising Charlie Kirk. He talked about how when people pass away, you want to focus on the good that they have done. This man went on to talk about how, Charlie Kirk was not for censorship, was not for civil war, was not for violence. He was for open dialogue and debate. And he went on to complain about people on both sides, advocating for and justifying unaliving of people and calling for civil war. So there are a lot of problematic things about his statements. First of all, just because somebody passes away doesn't mean that you have to suddenly try to praise them. Especially somebody like Charlie Kirk, a man that has made multiple racist statements. A man who showed utter contempt for black people and utter disrespect for black people on multiple occasions. But here you are finding yourself tap dancing for white validation, tap dancing for a pat on the head from people that despise you. If you were to pass away, do you think that Charlie Kirk would be memorializing your life and celebrating your life and talking about, reaching across the aisle and dialogue and all that stuff? Do you really think that? This is a man who called George Floyd a scumbag, and we could go on and on about all the things that this man has said and done, but I won't do that because I've done multiple videos about that. But here you are finding yourself basically praising a man that viewed you as less of a person simply because of the color of your skin, viewed you as less intelligent, less capable, less qualified, simply because of the color of your skin. But yet and still, here you are finding yourself tap dancing. You epitomize a weak black man, a cowardly black man, a spineless black man, a man who doesn't have the courage to stand on principle, a man that blows with the wind, a man that will do anything for validation and praise, by taking this middle of the road position. I guess he hopes that he's going to win over all these people, and people are going to support him and all that kind of stuff. People that support Charlie Kirk and others will come to his side. These people can't stand people like you. They can't stand us, black people. So it is really pointless in trying to win these people over. It's ridiculous that you are praising a man that wouldn't give a damn if you passed away. It's really deeply disappointing to see this. But anyway, I want to hear what y'all think about this. The other thing that I want to address before I close out is this false notion that people keep spreading, this myth that people keep spreading, this idea that somehow Charlie Kirk was all about open dialogue and debate. If he was about open dialogue, why would he be trying to silence professors on campus? Why would he be compiling a watch list of professors? At least, at least two professors that I know talked about how they were added to Charlie Kirk's watch list. This is a man that talked about how they were basically trying to replace white people with immigrants and other people of color. But this is the man that you find yourself as a black man praising. This is the man that you said you're going to the memorial. These are the kind of men that they put before us in the media to represent black people. So sad. You are everything that Sonny Hostin asked you about. You're a political chameleon and you're an opportunist. You saw an opportunity to bring attention to yourself by highlighting a message and praising a man that's not worthy of praise. So there's another point that I wanted to address, and that's this notion that somehow there's bad on both sides, this suggestion that both sides are advocating for violence and civil war. And some have suggested that the left is more violent than the right. And I think that a lot of that is just outright false. And it's just sad to see this black man that claims to be, progressive, promoting this false narrative. Most of the violence, most of these acts of political violence have occurred at the hands of far-right extremists. And that's just a fact. And I challenge anybody to prove me wrong. The other thing is this, despite what Van Jones was saying, I haven't heard anybody outright advocating for what happened to Charlie Kirk. I haven't heard a single person advocate for that. Now, we've talked about how we're not going to praise somebody. We're not going to mourn someone that has done and said the kind of things that he has said and done. But I haven't heard hardly anyone, advocate civil war or, advocate, what happened to him. So again, that's just an example of somebody pandering, another example of him pandering, trying to win favor with a group of people that have zero regard for him.